Hi, I'm Peter Birch, and today we're going to be checking out some of the cool lizard projects I'm currently working with. You're watching CrittaCam. Some of the coolest lizards available at the moment are blue-tongue lizards. And in fact, what makes them so cool is the fact that they're really easy to care for, they're low maintenance, and they also come in some really cool colours. And in fact, what we have here is an albino blue-tongue lizard. And look at the colours in this thing. It is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, those bright orange eyes, the yellows and the oranges, and you can even see lavenders in the back end here. Spectacular. Now, believe it or not, the albino gene is a straight recessive trait. So what that really means is that we can have a wild type blue tongue, if I can catch him. It's a little bit feisty. Here he is. If I can have a wild type blue tongue, I can put the albino across the wild type blue tongue and produce 100% hets, which means all those babies carry the same genetic trait for albinism. Then what we can do then is put two of those hets back to each other, and we can produce, on average, about 25% of the clutch will be an albino. And in fact, just for a plain lizard, this guy is absolutely gorgeous. Once again, those big, beautiful marks down the side there, big, thick bands. These things are just absolutely amazing. And unlike the albinos, these guys do have a blue tongue. One of the other most desirable traits, or colours I should say, for blue tongues at the moment, is the melanistic, the complete black lizard. We've got a couple right here. Here they are. Hiding, burrowing right down to the bottom there, hiding in there. Absolutely magnificent jet black animals. And one of the things I find very attractive or quite interesting about these beautiful creatures is that they have these wonderful orange bellies. Absolutely stunning. Now, believe it or not, just like all blue tongues, they shed their skin. But when these guys shed their skin, we can see that the shed itself also carries that thick, dark, bleak black pigmentation. Just like the albino blue tongue, the black or the melanistic blue tongue is a straight recessive trait. So there again, we can produce hets by putting this over a wild type animal. And in fact, unlike the albinos, these guys have what we call a visual het. And in fact, here's a visual het right here. Now, a visual het basically means you can see that this animal is carrying the genetic trait, the melanistic trait. You can see by the amount of black that's in this animal is absolutely a true het. So it's carrying the genetic trait for black. Blue tongues are absolutely amazing animals, and in fact they habit nearly every type of environmental situation in Australia. And in fact what we have here is this big thumper. This is what we're calling an XANTHIC northern blue tongue, a big monstrous animal. It's probably the largest out of all Australian blue tongues. And look at this thing, big chunky animal. Beautiful black and white banding. And in fact the northern blue tongues have this weird thing going on. In fact we've got one of these guys in here, which is what we're calling a hypermelanistic animal. And as you can see, the comparison between the two is quite outstanding. Beautiful animals. There's so many cool things about blue tongues. In fact, one of them would have to be the fact that even within a certain locality, which are western blue tongues, so we've got two western blue tongues here, and they look completely different. So even with a certain locality known animal, there can be such a huge colour variation. It's almost what they're calling polymorphic. Absolutely amazing. Look at this beautiful cream animal. In fact, those yellows on the side are magnificent. And this darker guy, well, he's dark, but he's definitely not ugly. Look at this, beautiful animal. Now, blue tongues are live-bearing animals. So in other words, they have a basic sort of placenta, which the animals have dropped out in, they tear their way out and move about. Now, just like we said before, with some localities can have a lot of different variation in colours. Well, even within a certain clutch, we have a variation. This is also what we call polymorphic. So if we can take some desirable traits just from this one sort of clutch here, and these are three clutch mates, some of them grow a little bit quicker than others, but we can see a bit of a colour variety also. This beautiful golden yellow animal is absolutely an outstanding animal, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for this beautiful little creature, let alone his offspring, his friends, his siblings. Some of the lesser known blue tongues that are available on the market are the blotched blue tongues. Now, the blotched blue tongues are a lot darker animals, and they have these beautiful, nice orange to red highlights. And in fact, these guys inhabit cooler climate areas. They inhabit areas anywhere from the Blue Mountains all the way down the south coast, right down into Tasmania. And of course, the further south they go, the darker they get. And just like all other blue tongues, these guys have live babies. A lesser known locality of blue tongues is called the Centralian Bluetongues. These guys inhabit Central Australia, so they inhabit probably the most hottest and driest climate out of all the blue tongues in Australia. Now these guys are really hard to come by, and in fact we're really lucky to have obtained a few very recently. And here are the little monsters right here. And as you can see, they are very little, but they are absolutely gorgeous. Look at those bright oranges and yellows. And the thick banding, it seems to be very consistent with most blue tongue species. Now these guys don't grow as big as normal blue tongues. When these guys fully grow, they're not as large as most blue tongue species. And in fact, these guys come in right down towards the bottom end of the scale as in size. But what they do make up for with their small, cute size is this absolutely gorgeous little tongue flicker. It moves like 1,000,000 miles an hour. Very inquisitive. Now, just like all animals, blue-tongued lizards also have a distant cousin. These distant cousins look very similar, but also very different to the blue-tongued species as we have seen today. And in fact, because these guys live out in the country in some of the most odd, desolate areas, they look slightly different. And in fact, their country cousin is this guy here, the Shingleback lizard. An absolutely spectacular animal in its own right, but very odd looking. And in fact, when we put him around like this, it almost looks like he's got two heads. Probably like most people's country cousins, I would suspect. Now, and in fact, one of the most particular things, or most peculiar things about these animals is their name, the Shingleback lizard. They get that from these very large scales on their back that overlap like shingles on a roof. Absolutely beautiful animals. But more oddly than that, is that Shinglebacks, unlike blue tongues, will typically only have between 2 to 3 babies. That's because the babies are about 1/3 of the size of the mother, so they're quite large babies when they start. Now, one of the other things that makes them a little bit different to most blue tongues is that Shinglebacks will particularly mate for life. So that makes them the true romantics of any lizard world. And in fact, what we have here is the big male. As you can see, he's got this big whopping head compared to the smaller female, and they definitely have different tail shapes. See how the male's got a longer, thinner tail, and the female's got a more rounded tail? That is probably one of the easiest ways to tell them apart. But more importantly, these things are absolutely gorgeous. During the right times of the year in some of the areas out west, you can find them following each other. And in fact, the female will be gorging for food, and the male will be following the female, waiting for his opportunity to mate. I really think blue tongues have really got something great to offer the future of the hobby. And in fact, look at these two beautiful little guys right here. Absolutely amazing, beautiful animals. And in fact, I want you guys at home to comment below. Hit me up on Facebook and Twitter. You've been watching CrittaCam.